Visiting the World Trade Center site can be one of the most meaningful and solemn experiences that one can have in New York City. Hi, I'm Megan, a licensed New York City tour guide, and I've been bringing guests to the World Trade Center site for over a decade. I want to use my experience to help you get your most meaningful visit to the World Trade Center site. We're going to talk about how to explore the site. We're going to talk about what the World Trade Center actually is, how to visit the memorial, how to visit the museum, and even some lesser known memorials that you might not have known about. So let's get started.
Yeah, Muffin Talk. Muffin Talk. Muffin Talks, bringing healing to those who need the most.
The first thing we have to understand is, what is the World Trade Center site? Now, if you grew up like me, you might have grown up thinking that the original World Trade Center site consisted of just two buildings, the Twin Towers. But the original World Trade Center site was actually 16 acres of land, and it consisted of 7 buildings. You had the original Twin Towers, and then around them were 5 other much smaller buildings, and they were all built on top of a train station and a shopping mall. Now, when the original Twin Towers came down, the debris destroyed the 5 other buildings and the train station and the shopping mall. Today, we are rebuilding the World Trade Center site, and we are rebuilding on 16 acres of land. Of the original 7 buildings, we are rebuilding 5. So we have number 1 World Trade Center. That's the very tall building that has the spire on top of it, known as One World Trade Center. We have number 2 World Trade Center, which as of now has not been built. We have the foundations laid and there's some kind of wacky street art on it. We also have number 3, number 4, and number 7. As of now, number 5 and 6 are not being built. That is because they had to make room for the 2 memorial pools that stand in the exact footprints of the original Twin Towers. We've also rebuilt the train station and the shopping mall. We have this white spiky building that is called the Oculus. This is the new train station and shopping mall at the World Trade Center site. So when you come to visit the World Trade Center site, you are actually revisiting 16 acres of land and all of the new buildings. How do you get to the World Trade Center site? Well, for security purposes, cars, buses, they're not allowed to stop right at the 9/11 memorial. So my personal suggestion is that you take public transportation, specifically the subway. And the subway station is a World Trade Center site in and of itself. When I say that the subway station itself is a World Trade Center site, there was a train station and a shopping mall that was built underneath the original World Trade Center site. Now, that train station and shopping mall was destroyed during the 9/11 attacks, and we have rebuilt it. Right now, I'm standing in the Oculus, which is the new train station and shopping mall. And the subways that you take to get here are all part of the original subway stations that were here. They have been restored, rebuilt, and retained. So when you take public transportation, you're probably going to end up right here in the Oculus. And as you can see, we have lots of trains that come to the World Trade Center site. So the stops that you want, if you are taking the A or the C train, you are going to take that to Fulton Street. J and Z, you're going to also take that to Fulton Street. The R and the W, you're going to take that to Cortlandt Street. The number 1 has its own special World Trade Center site stop. We also have the 2 or the 3. You would take those to Park Place. The 4 or the 5, you're also going to take those to Fulton Street. And then we have the number E. They have a World Trade Center stop. It's the last stop on the E. But which one of these trains is the best? Well, that's going to depend on where you are coming from. So just take whichever train is closest to where you are leaving from to come to the World Trade Center. But what if you're coming from New Jersey? Let's go. If you're coming from New Jersey, we have the PATH trains that come directly to the World Trade Center site and drop you off in the Oculus. You can also get here by boat. If you're traveling by boat to the World Trade Center site, Know that directly across from the World Trade Center site is Brookfield Place in Battery Park City, and that is on the Hudson River. So there is a ferry terminal here, and you can approach the World Trade Center site by taking New York Waterway. The 9/11 Memorial consists of 2 reflecting pools. They each stand in one of the exact footprints of one of the original Twin Towers. These were designed by a man named Michael Arad, and if you actually look over these bronze plates, you will see that there are waterfalls, 2 different waterfalls, and you can't actually see where they end up falling, so it appears as though they are falling into eternity. Around these waterfalls, there are bronze plates, and on these bronze plates are the names of the 2,977 innocent people who lost their lives that day. When you come to pay your respects at the 9/11 Memorial Pools, you might notice that some of the names have flowers, flags, different tokens on them. Those are usually placed there by loved ones or family members. However, you will occasionally see these white roses. The white roses are placed there by the people who run the memorial. And if you see a white rose on someone's name, that means that today would have been their birthday. An important thing to remember when you come to visit the memorial is that this is an active grave site. So the person that you are standing next to might be here mourning a loved one. So it's important to be respectful. You are allowed to take photos, you are allowed to take videos, but in general, the smiley, happy selfies are frowned upon. Now, the official name of these reflecting pools is Reflecting Absence, and they are here for you to visit, to pay your respects, and to reflect upon what you need to reflect upon when it comes to the events of September 11th. Take a World Trade Center site tour. Now, what these tours do is they talk about the 16 acres of land that the original World Trade Center site was built on, and that we have rebuilt the World Trade Center site on, and the surrounding areas. So they're going to talk about why we built the original World Trade Center site. And I think that this is really important because it's not fair to define a building only on the date of its destruction. And understanding why we built the original World Trade Center site is going to help you understand the events of 9/11 and how we have rebuilt the site. Now, these World Trade Center site tours are also going to uncover lesser known memorials that, in my experience, guests have a little bit of trouble finding on their own. For example, the Firefighter Memorial, the Königssphere, and the 11 Tiers Memorial. There are lots of companies that offer World Trade Center site tours, so I am confident that you can find one that matches your schedule and your budget. If you only do one thing at the World Trade Center site, apart from visiting the reflecting pools, I recommend this World Trade Center site tour. And I find that a lot of these tour companies, they will offer either tickets to the 9/11 Museum afterwards or One World Observatory. And these tours set you up perfectly for going into the museum or visiting One World Observatory. A visit to the 9/11 Museum can be the most solemn and personal experience of all. Now, guests will often ask me if a visit to the museum is a must for their trip to New York City. And my answer is that this is a very comprehensive, thorough, and intense experience. So if that's not an experience that you want or are ready for, then I would say that you do not need to go into the museum. That being said, the 9/11 Museum is expertly done. It is thorough, it is respectful, and when you go inside, you're going to find giant artifacts. For example, a fire truck that was cut in half by the falling debris, and you'll see columns that originally supported the original World Trade Center site. You'll also see very small artifacts, such as a ring that one of the victims was wearing that day. And you'll also find makeshift memorials that were set up across the globe as the world came together to mourn. There is a historical exhibit that takes you through minute by minute the events of 9/11, starting with headlines from that morning's newspaper. You see Matt Lauer on television receiving news that the Twin Towers had been hit. and you also will see live footage of the towers being hit. So it is a very intense experience, but it is the most thorough and comprehensive way of learning about the events of that day. A lot of people ask me how long should they plan to spend at the 9/11 Memorial Museum. The answer is that when this museum originally opened, the planned length of stay was 2 hours. However, they have found that since the museum opened, people either end up becoming just so fascinated by the subject matter that they spend way longer than 2 hours, or else they find that they need to limit their exposure to the events because it's so intense, and they end up spending a lot less than 2 hours. So it's your experience, and you're going to have to make that choice for yourself. There is no wrong answer. The 9/11 Museum does offer tours of the museum, and I'm always in favor of taking live tours. That being said, this is a museum that I personally feel everyone's going to experience in their own very personal way. And because it's so masterfully done, you don't necessarily need to have a tour. My personal recommendation is that you actually download the 9/11 Memorial Museum app. On this app, there are a series of audio tours that are really well done. There's even one that's specifically for children. You can listen to them on your smartphone, and I feel like that's going to give you a really comprehensive experience that also lets you walk through the museum at your own time and pace. How far in advance do you need to buy tickets to the 9/11 Museum? Well, sometimes all of these stanchions are actually completely full, and it's not uncommon for the museum to sell out. I would recommend that you buy tickets at least the day before your visit, and if you're coming during the holidays, you'll want to do it several days, if not at least a week before your visit. And I'm always a fan of booking direct and purchasing your tickets directly through the museum. After you visit the 9/11 Museum, I suggest that you go to visit One World Observatory. That is the observation deck on top of One World Trade Center, the building that replaced the original twin towers of the original World Trade Center complex. Now, One World Trade Center is very dear to my heart because I actually worked as a tour guide at One World Observatory for several years. And I can tell you that if you go to visit, first of all, there are tour guides there that can answer questions and even give you a tour. The other thing that I love about One World Observatory is that after experiencing the museum, which can be very intense, talking about the day that those towers fell, you get to experience a sense of New York City rising like a phoenix from the ashes, stronger than it was before, with going to the very tippy top of One World Trade Center and getting these expansive views of New York City. You may want to visit Liberty Park, which is an elevated park. Now, Liberty Park is actually part of the original 16 acres of the original World Trade Center site. And from here, you can get an elevated view of the 9/11 Memorial reflecting pools. And you can also find some lesser known memorials. For example, the Koenig Sphere. Now, the Koenig Sphere actually used to stand directly between the original twin towers of the original World Trade Center site. When the original Twin Towers came crashing down and destroyed the 5 other buildings, the Koenig Sphere survived, and New Yorkers were amazed. And they asked the artist Fritz Koenig if he would please fix the sphere because the debris had fallen upon it and it looks like someone got very angry and punched a hole in the top of the world. Now, Fritz Koenig looked at the sphere and he said, "You know, it's taken on this new kind of beauty that I never could have imagined working on it in my studio. So why don't we bring it back to the World Trade Center site as a memorial to peace, and I will fix it when the world is at peace." It will be a lovely day when we finally see the Koenig Sphere fixed. Also at Liberty Park, you will see this white building, and a lot of guests ask me what this is. This is actually St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church. It is replacing the original St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church, which was here on September 11th, and it was the only non-World Trade Center building to be completely destroyed in the 9/11 attacks. So this is the new St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church, designed by Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava. Just a few other things about the view from Liberty Park. If you look over north, you will see the reflecting pools. Because it's summertime right now, we have lots of leaves. It makes it harder to see the reflecting pools. In the winter time, it's easier because the trees lose their leaves. You will see a silver building with a slanted roof. That is the entrance to the 9/11 Museum. And then beyond that, there is a white cube-shaped building. That is the brand new Performing Arts Center at the World Trade Center site. At the 9/11 Memorial, you will find this tree, which is a calorie pear tree. This tree was found in the rubble of 9/11, and it was taken up by its roots. It was put in a nursery. It was nursed back to health and brought back here to the World Trade Center site. It has become known as the survivor tree. Now, if we get up close to this tree, you will see areas where the bark is really rough. That's what the firefighters found. The smoother bark, that is what has grown since September 11th. So the survivor tree is here to tell us that yes, some things will always be broken, and yes, some things will always be scarred. But through it all, we can continue to not just survive, but to grow and to thrive and to become stronger than we were before. And in my opinion, that is the perfect metaphor for the World Trade Center site. Now, if you recall, after 9/11, people were afraid to fly. People were afraid to come to the US if they weren't here. If they were in the United States, they were afraid to come to New York. And if they were in New York, they were afraid to come to Lower Manhattan. But since September 11th, 2001, population in this area has more than tripled. We have new office space, new apartment buildings, new restaurants, new shops, and a performing arts center. And the reason why we have been able to rise like a phoenix from the ashes is because of people like you who come to visit and become part of this very important site. While not part of the official World Trade Center site, when you come to visit, you'll probably want to pay a visit to St. Paul's Chapel. St. Paul's Chapel dates back to 1766, and it's directly across the street from the original World Trade Center site. And it survived the 9/11 attacks without a single shingle being knocked out of place. As such, it was used as a makeshift firefighter station in the coming days and weeks while the first responders continued their efforts to rescue potential survivors. Today, it is a fully functioning Episcopal church, and you can go in and visit and be part of St. Paul's Chapel's history. It may seem a bit strange to say that you can go shopping at Kate Spade and pay tribute to the World Trade Center site. But remember, there was a train station and a shopping mall that were part of the original World Trade Center site. And as part of our rebuilding process, we have rebuilt that train station and shopping mall. So you can come here to the Oculus, you can shop at all of these incredible shops and be a part of the new World Trade Center site. By the way, this is what the Oculus looks like on the outside. I have a whole video about it if you want to check it out and learn why. When you visit the World Trade Center site, you might get hungry, and a lot of guests ask me where they should eat. One of the places that I recommend is O'Hara's Pub. O'Hara's Pub was here on September 11th. It was badly damaged and had to close. When it reopened, it invited a lot of first responders to its opening. And one of the first responders, the legend is, he was wearing his uniform and he ripped the badge off of his uniform and he stapled it to the top of the bar. And since then, over 8,000 first responders from all over the world have followed suit. So you can go in, try to find a patch from a first responder in your hometown. And in addition to paving over bad memories with good spirits, they also have really good burgers. If you're looking for something a little more casual and quick, you can always come to Brookfield Place across the street from the World Trade Center site. In Brookfield Place, they have Hudson Eats. That is a food hall. Everything there is a New York City-based food company. Or to Le District, which is a French-themed food hall. And then if you want something much more upscale, you can always go to number 4 World Trade Center and find the restaurant at Italy. Directly across the street from the World Trade Center site is Brookfield Place, formerly known as the Winter Garden Atrium. This is connected to the World Trade Center site. If you take one of the World Trade Center site tours, you will learn more about that. But for your visit, what you can know is that this is an indoor space. So if the weather's bad, if it gets really cold, you can come in here to stay warm. And then if you actually walk up that set of stairs, you can look out the window and you'll get a view of the 9/11 memorial. How long should you plan to spend at the World Trade Center site? Well, again, this is going to be very personal. I have brought lots of groups that just want to pay their respects at the reflecting pools. They find that 20 minutes is sufficient for them. If you want to add the 9/11 museum onto that, I would estimate another 2 hours. If you want to add one World Observatory, that's usually about an hour to visit. And then most tours last between 1 to 2 hours to explore the site. And then of course, if you want to go visit a restaurant such as O'Hara's, that'll add a little bit of extra time. So the answer is anywhere between 20 minutes and 6 to 7 hours, depending on how in-depth you want to go with your World Trade Center site visit. Visiting the World Trade Center can of course stir up a whole myriad of emotions, and a lot of times visitors need to take a moment to just decompress. There are lots of parks and public spaces around for you to come and just take a break if you need to and just kind of soak up some sunshine. So right now I'm actually standing in a park that's right next to the Hudson River. You can actually see the Statue of Liberty from here. And remember that the Hudson River did play a role in the 9/11 attacks. The site was on fire and they had to turn off all of the water mains. So where did they get the water from? They got the water from the Hudson River using fireboats. So even while you are here, you're still connected to the World Trade Center site. I hope that this video has helped you learn how you can have your most meaningful experience when you come to visit the World Trade Center site. I have another video that's almost like a walking tour of the World Trade Center site if you would like to watch that, as well as a video about my experience at One World Observatory and about the Oculus. Hopefully all of these will help you come and visit the World Trade Center site and have your most meaningful experience.